isn't about demonstrating your worth. It's not about making someone an image of themselves and putting them on a pedestal and attaching your self-worth to an idea that you will be worthy of love if this person you adore chooses to love you in return. Love is a series of hormones that the brain secretes in order to create bonds that facilitate survival in a cruel and uncaring multiverse.
That's real.
It can be. It determines on how one chooses to interpret that information.
Right.
You know? Let me see if I can't pull up. Donald Duck says, everything that we know and love is reducible to the absurd acts of chemicals, and it is therefore no intrinsic value in this material universe. And do you know what Mickey Mouse replies? Hypocrite that you are, for you trust the chemicals in your brain to tell you they are chemicals. All knowledge is ultimately based on that which we cannot prove. Will you fight, or will you perish like a dog? The long and the short of that is chemicals became a meme because some years ago there was a conversation that was had on a video somewhere, and basically I cited some such similar sentiment.
You don't even believe in true love, do you? I mean, chemicals do what they gotta do to make the world.
To which I then explained that I find it really cool that that's how things work, but that part doesn't matter as much as the part where you're an edgelord that thinks everything is chemicals. And it's like, all right, well,
done. We're cooked.
I don't see why the fact that things are chemicals is not beautiful. I think that the fact that it is something that propels us,
I can see that,
is beautiful in itself. I think that's super cool. And the fact that we are able to feel things and do things and whatnot.
But that being said, if a chemical comes up in my face and tells me to do something I don't want it, I'll punch it all day.
Punch it all day. But I think it's super fascinating and awesome that that's how our brains work. So
that's fine.
I'll take my licks.
The way I kind of get to that point is by having a religious upbringing that like tells you a story about how we all came to be here, and then fighting your way out of that when you have no one else around you to possibly like support those ideas, and how difficult that is because it's like you have to go against everything you know, and then trying to come to a conclusion that is ultimately, I guess, a more convincing explanation for how we all came to be here, but also not an inherently nihilistic one. And it's that, like, because there's a bit of a thing where you will run across this if you ever are talking to, or like people that are trying to convince you to stay in the church. Sometimes you might run into people who would say, yeah, but what's the point of anything if it isn't what we've been taught, if it isn't this origin story? And like, why even care about anything? Why even bother? Why not just fully be nihilistic about things? And it's like, when you're a little fucking kid, you probably don't have the equipment to answer that. You probably haven't processed enough out there to figure out where to go next in that conversation. But to me, at least, I think that if you can see the fact that the whatever random kind of nature of it, and the coincidental nature of it, and the fact that the math happened to add up to this exact thing, it's fucking cool that you rolled right and every one of those red checks landed 20 20 20 in each instance to get things to where they are. And that's fucking that is cool in and of itself. And that's interesting and fascinating in and of itself, and it doesn't need to be justified by a creating hand or a guiding hand of some kind if you need that for your more comfortable
it's cute narrative. To see the amazement you have in front of the magnificence of life.
It's an answer that kind of helps you, like, especially in that type of conversation, go like, yeah, but even if there is even if this whole book is fake, even if this is all bullshit, it's still super worth it and still super like
something to like.
There's still something there.
Point.
There's still something to be optimistic about. It's still interesting. It's still fascinating in and of itself for what it is, right? If you just kind of look at it and go, it wasn't the storybook, therefore what's the point? Then that's stupid, you know? So like all of that extrapolates further and further out in some way to a mentality where here I am in adulthood at the very least, and I look at things as like, yeah, like there is no magic in the world. Things are not, you know, there's no fucking mystical soulmate attachment you're going to be pulled in. You know what I mean? There's nothing that we've seen that is but like because you're not because it's not magical doesn't mean that it has no inherent worth or value, right? Things that happen to be the result of the fucking random ass domino effect that got us to this place are still fucking interesting and cool, and like it is awesome that it happened to work out this way, you know. And you have to kind of find fascination in that, instead of just being like, no, it's got to be the storybook or nothing, you know. So I know that's not as funny. I know that's not as interesting or as memeable, but I hope that makes some sense as to how I kind of came to these conclusions, because I feel like at a point in time when I was getting out of believing God made everything, and I had to fight that alone.
Your truth or your conviction.
I had to fight that alone, and I think I had to come to some conclusions that were equally as valuable when discussing with the entirety of my family about those subjects. Or, you know, perish like a dog.
or
you can perish.